What up, great people?
Hey, everybody. It's so nice to see everyone.
So it's Tuesday night, fabulous Tuesday, and this is what we do on Tuesday, 10 o'clock sharp. We are definitely able to hear you guys, so we hope that you guys can hear us. And I am AD, and
D in the building.
all right. So tonight we are coming to you guys, and we're going to discuss. We were contemplating touching the Will and Jada conversation, but I feel like they've already had enough of everybody with their opinions and emotions behind what it is that they've had going on. So let's see what it is that we will be discussing. My wife was talking about daddy's girls and mama's boys or something to that nature. I can't necessarily relate to that. So if that is the topic that we truly do decide to go with, then I will let her do majority of the leading. However, if we can come up with another topic from you guys with the help of you guys, or I was kind of discussing earlier the importance of honesty and how essential that is to rectifying things that need to be rectified and clarifying things that need to be clarified. I was having that conversation with a person that I was doing a little bit of business with earlier today, and he has some really good points. It's different, particularly when you cross that culture boundary. You know, he's Hispanic and he's Mexican, and you know he said a lot of very common things, but at the same time, I guess it was the way in which he said it. You know, and that just kind of like that's kind of been on my head for majority of the evening. However, I did not discuss that with my wife.
I know nothing about what he's talking about.
So we just gonna go at it the best we know how on this here wonderful evening.
I do think though, the Will and Jada stuff kind of coincides with being honest. I think it touches on that subject, and I have an opinion and he has an opinion, and we've already talked about this 1,000 times. He doesn't he has his own opinion and I have my own opinion, and that's just what I'm gonna call it for right now.
Indeed.
That's what I'm gonna call it.
In regards to their
situation,
entanglement, as some would say, I feel like the response that we got from Will Smith was both hurt as well as betrayal. I do not feel like he was aware of their relationship being physical. And I do feel as though Mrs. Smith, or is that Ms.?
No, she's the Mrs.
Okay, Mrs. Smith.
Yes, she's the Mrs.
She could have most definitely been more accountable.
Okay.
With how things were illustrated and communicated. I feel like Will was left in the dark about a lot of the things that was going on, and he was finding out exactly how much of an entanglement she was in just at the same time that we were. So I don't feel like that's really cool. I feel like, you know, she did a little more than fumbled the ball on that one. And I was quite bothered by it because um just being quite honest with myself and real, a lot of Black people don't have uh the correct images or ideals of a foundation in a marriage, a couple that has been together, that has weathered the storm and gone through this, that, or the third, and continue to thrive and fight and support one another through whatever it is that they may be feeling or dealing with. My grandmother, um, who I love so dearly, that's my Uma Sugar.
Don't start.
And I'm Uma Man. And we
Oh my God.
have we have watched her deal with a lot of different things being in the marriage that she chose with my grandfather. However, I understand now so much more in depth that it is her decision, and it was her vow before God, pardon me, that she has continued to be faithful and committed to, not so much the person. And also in regards to that, in many people's eyes, my grandfather has not always been the ideal man for my grandmother. However, I feel differently because he's always been a good grandfather to me.
And so I only say to him that it was a little different for me. I mean, shout out to my big bro and his wife. They've been married this year. They celebrate oh gosh, in a couple of days. They celebrate 16 years married, and 21, 22 years together. And so that's a big deal for me, to say that I've been able to see that. But in my family, one particular couple that stuck out for me was outside of my grandmother and my grandfather, my dad's side, who were married literally until they died, um, was my grandmother, Jackie, God rest her soul, and her brother, um, Uncle James, and his wife, Aunt Sylvia. And Uncle James and Aunt Sylvia were together from the time they were like 19 years old. And Uncle James died at like 87. So they were together for a very, very, very long time. And I just remember being a little girl and asking, like, how did you guys stay together so long? I was a kid and I still couldn't understand because I didn't see that every day. So I couldn't understand how they were able to stay together for so long and be together for so long. And my aunt very honestly said, like, we pray a lot together, baby. We've gone through a lot. And when you go through things with people, you don't just quit on them when you really love them. You work it out, you figure it out. You might get angry, you might get mad, but you find a way to forgive that person and you find a way to get past that place. And that just kind of stuck with me literally all my life. And I just knew that someday, one day, I would find somebody that I felt like was worth sticking with through it all. My husband and I have a very, very, very real relationship. And it's going
real raw rap.
And it's going through some
Hold tight my mind.
It's going through some really, really real things. And I guess that's kind of like what's been the driving factor for us doing AD&D in that fashion, because we really want to come to you like as raw as we possibly can, kind of without exposing every card in our hand. That we are very real. We've gone through some very real things, and we just want to help people get better, feel better, do better, and become better individuals, which will help you to be a better couple.
Better friends, better lovers.
Truly.
Self-evaluation. If we could discuss that for a minute. Check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Actually.
And that is in every sense of the word, to be able to look at you and say, wait a minute, what is it that I did to get this result? Or what is it that I did that could have gotten a different result or different response? being accountable for what you say, how you say, what you do, man, weighs in so much on a relationship. And a lot of people may not really understand the magnitude of what it is that they do because you don't know how the other person is going to respond. You don't know how they're going to interpret your actions. You don't know how they're going to interpret your words. Um, Words don't have feelings, people do. And sometimes you can say something, and before you know it, it's said, and you can't get it back. You can't pull those words back in. Uh, it's one and the same with actions. You can do something, and to you, it can be something that's so meaningless and absolutely no big deal. But to your counterpart, your spouse, your lover, your partner, your boo, um,
Your bail, your fine.
it can be something that could potentially cost you the relationship.
Definitely.
And from my own perspective, from our marriage, I would never want to be in a situation like what Will and Jada were just facing. And although we have had our unfortunate circumstances and infidelity and deception, I would rather be accountable for my own actions and make a conscious decision to say, you know what? Let me check me. Let me not be the person that takes us there. Simply because I made up in my mind a long time ago that my wife was the person that I wanted to deal with. And hell, for what it's worth, um, I've been there, I've been here, and I'm gonna be here through the good, the bad, the ugly, and the otherwise. And she's shown me a lot of different sides to her. She has revealed a few dark places in her mind and in her heart. And person, that's what becomes so much of a challenge for me. I'm still learning the person that I've already married, that I'm already committed to, that I've already made so many exceptions for, and even excuses for behaviors and actions and even conversations. Um, but we've gotten to a place where those uncomfortable conversations and moments, we see the beauty in them. We have grown together spiritually and mentally. And with doing so, I can understand the strength and weakness. And I also see that where sometimes I can be weak, she is strong. And where I can be strong, she may be weak. So it takes a lot of balance. It takes a lot of understanding. This is the hardest job
You will ever have
that you will ever have
in your entire life.
and you never submit a resume.
Nope.
You just kind of show up one day and you get to work. And because of that, we are doing what we're doing here with AD&D, trying to be able to help other people who might be facing some of the things that we've gone through. We're standing in the gap.
I was gonna say, and not just facing some of the things that we're going through, but for the people that are afraid to face some of the things that we are going through or have gotten through and gone over. And I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
A large part of the reason why I thought we might have been able to touch on the Will and Jada drama is because I would like to kind of talk about the place that outsiders have in a relationship. And truth be told, they have no place. They have no place. They have no opinion. And people are always going to voice their opinion. People are always going to voice their opinion. People are always going to tell you what it is that they think you should do, what it is that they think you should say,
Ooh.
what it is that, if I were in your shoes, this is the way that I would respond. And these things could be coming from people that you genuinely and truly care about, that you may even genuinely say in the average situation has your complete best interest at heart. But outside of your spouse, your significant other, um it's null and void. So those opinions, I even had to have that conversation with my husband. I've said the same thing with a couple of people that I've discussed this whole Will and Jada drama at work. Granted, you could have your opinion, but until you're that husband and you're that wife, you don't know how you're going to respond to that situation. You could say, oh, well, if it was me, I would never do da da da. If it was me, I would never put up with. But when you're in that situation, when you're in love with that person, you have no idea how you're going to respond. And if I've learned nothing else, I've learned that that is the God's honest truth, that you what you're willing to accept. You don't know what you're willing to forgive. You don't know what you're willing to work through until you face that situation with your significant other, until you gotten to the point where you're like, okay, that's some,
Yeah.
that's some messed up stuff you did. I'm hurt by that, or I can't believe that you did that. I'm embarrassed, or I'm angry, or I'm ashamed, or whatever the case may be. But the love's still there.
I will definitely agree with you. And just to say that, I'll add this: a lot of people have their opinions, but if you came up in a household like mine's, then you have a good old saying where uh, the older folks would say, opinions are like buttholes.
Come on now.
Everybody has one, and they all stink.
And they all stink.
So you have to make sure that you got you covered. You know what I mean? I tell my children all the time, both hands, both feet, and both butt cheeks. You got to have you. It doesn't matter what someone else thinks or their input. And of course, you want to value them because they love you and they're your loved ones, and you want to be able to, you know, be a people pleaser. That's the hardest issue with a lot of us. We don't want to cut anybody short because you don't want to have it where it's like, oh, my sister told me, and I don't want to act like I don't want to not listen to my sister, or my mama, she said, and I don't want to have to, not talk to my mama because I'm back over here trying to fix things with the one person that I feel that knows me more intimate than my mother, that knows me more intimate than my sibling, that knows me and has ways of caring for me that
none of those people can.
You know what I'm saying? Like
none of those people can.
And that's not to be taken in any way
Negative
or another,
context,
but that's just the real of it. You understand what I'm saying? When it comes down to it, in totality, there's only one person that's gonna have me the way that she does, and there's only one person that's gonna have her the way that I do.
That's the facts.
And other than that, it's us doing what we have to do as individuals to be better people, so that we can share our love and share our bond and our union. And we also have to kind of weather the storm so that we can continue to be an example for our children, so that we can break generational curses within our families, and set the bar and the standard for the people that look to us and say, all a cool kick-ass couple.
I just want to say, not just generational curses, but plain out bad habits. Plain out bad habits. I come into interaction with several different people, young men, young women, older and young, and it's well, I never dealt with that before, or I never put up with that before. And it's like, okay, well, where are you now? Single. Okay. And how has that helped you? So what you're doing is really just a bad habit. One of the things that I recognize very young in my family, I've always been very observant, and I just recognized that all of the women in my family were getting older, and they were aging, and they were dying alone. And these are beautiful women, women of servitude, we're Southern girls, so we're taught to serve our mate. We're taught to feed them. We're taught to, you know what I'm saying, rub their backs. We're taught to, treat them right. We're taught all of these things. Yet my family, who I was going to, and watching as I'm coming up, they weren't teaching me how to be in a successful relationship because they weren't any. They were not in any relationships. They were alone. And so I just knew coming up that that's not what I wanted for myself. I knew at least being able to see my grandmother and my grandfather, and though they had their stuff, I knew that I could be different, that I could still be the woman of servitude, that I could still be the Southern Belle, I could still be this beautiful, strong Black woman who could do it by myself, but still be able to do it with someone. And that's kind of been a little bit of the tug of war that my husband and I have had, finding the balance between him being the strong Black man and me being the strong Black woman, and him having the mindset that he had to do it for himself and me having the mindset that I had to do it for myself, and us figuring out that we could do it for ourselves together.
If I could be um, an example for someone else, then I would love to be. However, knowing that you're not right, knowing that you're not right holds a certain amount of weight. I sleep good every night,
Most nights, y'all.
you
Don't let me
know.
lie.
But I mean, as far as
Your
with
conscience.
circumstances and
Yeah,
my
your
conscience
conscience.
being
Yeah.
clear.
I know.
So let me clarify that. But any decisions that I've made as far as feeling as whether or not I was in right standing or not, I don't feel that they are something that is questionable when it comes down to how I made that decision, how I came to that conclusion. So I feel as though in order to point someone in the right direction, you have to first have a map and know where it is that you're going and know what it is that you're seeking. That's one. And secondly, you have to have the fortitude to do what is right, to check yourself and know what is right, to know that if you're not right, you can't expect somebody to listen to what it is that you tell them. So we are in a better place, and probably by far the most beneficial and healthy part of our relationship that we've been in 9 years.
Yes.
It took us 5 years to figure out if we would even continue. And we've been married 6 years come August. So the first year we mistreated each other. The second year and third year we completely avoided each other. And coming into year 4, we got to a place where
that's a great question, Courtney. We're gonna answer that.
We had to be selfless instead of being so selfish, because we spent a lot of time being selfish, and then we had to come to an understanding and kind of like just buckle down and say, you know what? I said to myself, I don't know, I can't speak for her, but I said to myself, I don't want to have to watch her be good to somebody else.
Hey, I'm not prepared.
I didn't want to see her knowing that even though with all the ugly and the bad, the shame, just being raw, I didn't want to have to watch her be with another man and be good to him, or knowing that he was receiving what I once had. I didn't want to watch that. So I started to kind of groom myself and wean myself from some of those learned habits and comfortable patterns that I was okay with doing. I said to her, and she brought that to my attention, where I said that I was like, give me until I'm 30. Let me just kind of get this stuff out of my system. And I will reiterate once again, it wasn't necessary to say that I was trying to be in a different type of relationship at any point with someone else or anything of that nature. But
He just did a lot of foolish stuff.
But men, we need that time to grow up. So that's all. That's why I'm all the more appreciative of my wife and more protective of her, because she gave me something that a lot of women weren't able to give me, even women in my family. Able to deal with me through my roughness, my vulgarity, my foolishness, my nonsense, my BS. Right. They weren't able to deal with me. They weren't willing to hold me down. You know, a lot of them felt like they had done enough. You know, God dog it, I ain't a child, please. You come with too much. But she allowed me to grow up. She allowed me to mature in a way that I can now show appreciation to her because I now understand what it took.
And those years that he asked me to give him, when we look back at it now, were some of our most difficult time together.
Yeah.
Back at it now, that was some of the most difficult time together, because even though I so quick said, yeah, I'll give you that time, it's okay, don't worry about it, I really had not mentally prepared myself for what that meant.
She got to a place where she almost resented me.
Oh my God, I was so angry.
Everything that she did was intentional, but unintentionally pushing me away or giving me a reason to respond or react in a different fashion.
But unbeknownst to him, or not unbeknownst, but he was in his discovering his self phase of life. But one of my biggest fears as a woman was a man walking out of my life. And because he was discovering himself and so much of what he was doing didn't include me, I felt like he was a step away from a walk away. And that was scary. And I didn't know how to build my bridge over that. So instead, I tried to push him away.
She did a lot of that. And that is where we had one or two of our own red table talks.
Yeah. Courtney, I want to talk about that question. You asked, how did you guys rebuild trust again? I'm going to be all the way honest. We're not done with that process. We are not done with that process. Every day is a struggle. I mean, it's by the grace of God, you know, it's graceful, but it is definitely a struggle. Every day we put in the effort and the energy to communicate with each other, to meet each other where we are, so that way he can feel comfort and I can feel comfort in us individually as a couple, if that even makes any sense. Did that make sense?
Yeah. I feel like the importance of honesty definitely does make a lot of sense. I'm gonna touch on what she's saying. She said, did separating help us understand each other? Separating gave my wife an opportunity to say a lot of things that she had never said. She expressed herself in some circumstances to me that I wasn't really clear on, but I was able to get an understanding of it because it was all gloves off. She could say whatever she wanted to say. You know, it wasn't. I could hang up the phone. She'd send me a long text. You know what I'm saying? And then if I didn't answer the phone, she would blow it up. So it was just all the more of an opportunity for us to really kind of like lay it all out, lay it down. It's just like, you remember those little black books that, you know what I'm saying, grandma and them used to have?
The Rolodex?
I'm not gonna say the Rolodex. The Rolodex, you know, the Rolodex was kind of like,
no, because grandma had a big black book.
Yeah, my grandma had a it was more like a phone book, but she jotted notes and she had different little quotes and she had numbers and different things and addresses and everything all in that. Hey, and she kind of kept that with her, but she would go back to that and just kind of, you know, do what she needed to do to kind of keep herself abreast. So we laid it all out and we had to kind of build
Off
of that. We had to lay out the emotions. We had to get out of our feelings.
And
That's a
that was a
big hurdle.
huge part of the process, just getting our feelings out of the way.
And as a young man coming into my maturity, coming into my manhood, that was my biggest struggle. Not just dealing with me, but learning to deal with my emotions, learning not to respond, not to react, but to respond, learning that my feelings didn't trump what was right or what was wrong or anybody else's.
If anybody knows this man at all, you know that he has a very big personality. He is a ton of fun, full of energy, full of life. But just as much fun as he could be just as much hell, if not more. Um, and although I shine in my own way, um, I took a back seat to my husband for a very long time. I just kind of like let him, whatever.
And because of that,
whatever,
the communication or my perception, let me not say the communication got really bad, but the perception was everything was all good. It's all good. What you mean? What you tripping for? Nah, bro, like, you know, because we get so caught up in the rapture. We get accustomed to our way, our words, our feelings, and I just continued with that. So when my wife started saying, "Nah, bro," and she was like, "I want more," and I'm like, "What do you want more of? Do you want more money, more food, more sex, more trips, more? You know, what do you want more of?" And at that point, she wasn't even really able to communicate it because it was like, "How do you not see this?" So the Rolodex, the black book, she had to, while we were separated, while we were apart, she was able to say a lot of different things to give me some things to look at, to go back and say, "You remember that one time when you said blase blah?" And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, "Well, you know, how would you feel if I said something like that to you? How would you interpret me doing something like that to that degree in action?" And it was like, I'm going to jail. You know, we ain't even gonna play like that. And then it was like, but I've taken this, I've weathered this storm, baby. So I need you to kind of like feel me and understand where I'm coming from. And then in the same, you know, circumstance, I was able to say, "Well, bro, I be looking for more too." Because every woman wants a husband, but not every woman is capable of being a wife.
That's the facts.
Okay. And every man wants to be a man, but how did I say it just the other week? I was reading this, I read this, and it sat with me for so long. Testicular fortitude and intellectual fortitude are two different worlds apart, but it takes the perfect balance of the two and for a man to truly be a man.
Thanks.
So I've been gathering stones to build up my character, and it has taken a whole lot more for me to do what it is that I have accomplished, because I still wasn't ready, but I was already in those shoes, if that makes any sense.
Complete sense to me.
Well,
it makes complete sense to me.
To know is to know. You know what I mean? So I'm just being real, man. You know what I mean? So I can, to go back to the Will and Jada thing, what I saw seemed more like a two people in an arrangement.
And what I saw for me, for the first time in Will and Jada, I saw two real people going through real things in a real marriage.
I have to give you that.
It wasn't the red carpet. It wasn't the beautiful pictures.
Yeah, it wasn't pretty.
It was
real
raw
marriage.
marriage
Jeez.
stuff. What I saw. And so I take us to all of these negative things that people have to say about whatever it was that they were experiencing, because if Will and Jada are able to forgive Will, forgive Jada,
then who are we to hold them
to have such this firm judgment on what it is that she did or did not do? And I just don't agree with that, because I can tell you from a personal place, don't come at me about what I done been through in my marriage. I'm gonna tell you right now.
Well, this goes back directly to how we started the conversation, with everyone having their opinions. What a lot of you guys may not know, and few that do, this is her second marriage. This is my first marriage. I have done everything that I can to try to fix what I messed up, because I was tearing this marriage and relationship up every day, with the emotions, with the words in which I chose to use during communication, and in action, because I was still very immature when we got married.
I was gonna say a lot of it was his responses. A lot of it was his responses to the things that we were going through, whether it was what I took him through or what he took me through, or what we were going through together as a family, or as a couple. It was the responses, because
it was either too much or not enough.
It was usually way too much. He came from a very rough upbringing. He grew up very fast, and he had to be very street savvy, and he kind of brought that street savvy into our relationship. And anybody that knows me knows I am not a street girl at all.
She's very green.
I am very green, and I like it that way. I like that, the fact that I'm unaware of a lot of things, but he brought that kind of harsh, tough, really, really rough around the edges, kind of like always on go, into our relationship. And probably for the first like 3 or 4 years, it was like, bro, I'm not on the opposite team. Like, I'm playing this game with you. Like, I'm on the same team with you. Why are you responding this way? Why are you, coming at me in this fashion? We could not like each other.
And it was like, nah, bro, but you don't feel me.
Yeah, and I'm like, what are you talking about?
You don't feel me. And there was no clarity. There was no clarity whatsoever. We were together. We were great lovers. We were good friends. However, we were not giving each other the clarity and the understanding that it truly takes for two people that want to be together, that want to be somebody together. She was on her road, I was on my road, and then we would come to these interchanging streets when it was time for a family gathering or
church on Sunday.
Church on Sunday. We wore that real good. Baby, let me tell you something. We played church for a good
Wait a minute. I have to give y'all this. There was one Sunday that we got dressed up to go to church. I'll never forget this. This is going to go with us. The grandkids going to hear about it. We had been having it out from the night before. I'm talking about we was arguing all night. Woke up the next morning on that Sunday, still going at it. I mean, like, we're literally
getting dressed.
I'm like, we're getting dressed to get ready to go to church. And we're going back and forth, just going back and forth.
Boy.
So we get to church, and we're sitting in one of the pews. And he pulls out his camera, guys. Watch this. He pulls his camera out, and he says, come on, let's take a picture. And I literally said, I don't even like you. And then leaned in, and we took this beautiful picture. We took the most adorable picture ever.
Like, I hate you so much right now. And it's oh, man, that's
we were
crazy.
in church. We were in church. We were in church sitting next to each other, and we were boiling and was pissed at each other.
Yeah.
I'm talking about, like, I think we left and still didn't even talk to each other. Like, we were so angry, and we took pictures, and if we go back to that picture, I think that was like one of our most
liked
pictures during that time, and we
yeah.
were not even friends, y'all. Like,
At all.
we didn't even like each other, and it was so crazy because for the longest time behind the scenes, he and I was like, we're sick of making this shit look like it's okay, and it doesn't feel that way.
And that's why I gave the reference of playing church, because I'm just gonna keep it real. A lot of church folks are the worst folks.
Ooh,
They put this mask on, they put these titles on with this attire,
yeah,
and they step out into the public world,
yes,
into the limelight,
yes.
and it's holy, holy, hallelujah, thank you, Lord.
And let me make sure I'm clear on this. I did a whole lot of shouting, but it wasn't because I was pretending or I was playing. He had no idea.
Yeah, what she was pressing through.
Oh my God, I was praying to God to keep me focused, because and we'll go into that at some point or another, but I've struggled in my own way, in my own right. One of the things that is with me still to this day is grief. The year before I met my husband, I lost my sister very unexpectedly. I was not prepared for that. I did not know how to handle it. I didn't see it coming, and I felt like for a very long time I could not grieve about it. And that internally really messed me up. Internally, it really, really, really messed me up. And so I went from that right into meeting him and knowing from very, very early on, like, he wasn't going nowhere.
But it was a very serious relationship.
Yeah.
I went from being a boo and bae to hubby.
Period.
Because I stepped into a full-time job. I immediately started helping her with her children.
It was everything.
And
it was everything.
My children were dropped off with quickly. Us.
And I wholeheartedly accepted the role of being there for him with his children. Now, I just want to say, we just had this little comment right here. Most people haven't experienced conditional love, and that's what they didn't understand from Will and Jada. Now, I just want to say this. When my husband and I met years and years and years ago, he was just coming out of a really bad situation. I won't even call it a relationship, a situation. And he was really in a bad mental space. And one of the very first conversations that we had was about love, and how a lot of people use the word but don't really know what it even means.
Don't know what comes with it.
So when you say that you love someone, this is something that we talked about, like our very first conversation, which really opened us up to more conversation. It was, when you say that you love someone, you really have to understand what that means. In the dictionary, because I'm firm on dictionary meanings, when you look up the word love in the dictionary, no matter where you look it up, 9 times out of 10, one of the first 3 words in that definition is going to be unconditional. And the word unconditional means by no terms, by no conditions. So there's no fine print is what that means. So it doesn't mean that, I'll love you until you do this, or, I'm going to be with you unless you do this. It doesn't mean
I love you, but.
It doesn't mean that. And so that was one of the things that I expressed to him, that I had experienced from previous situations, that, I was dealing with these people and we were saying that we loved each other, but we really didn't.
Yeah, it was really crazy, but after my wife and us having conversations like that, to understand the impact of love and commitment, unconditional love with no terms, I very early in our relationship expressed to her the terms in which I had to deal with my children's mom, which was just kind of like changing day to day depending on what it was that she wanted or what it was that she was asking at that particular time and moment. So I had a conversation with my my baby bro, my bro BG, and
hey baby girl.
we were talking about love, and he and I were in a really, really sketchy situation, like real. um bad situation, and we were talking over the phone. We were talking on a three-way call, and I said to him, I said, bro, I said, listen to me. I said, bro, I love you, bro. And he say, I love you too. And I said, no, listen, I just need you to hear me. I said, bro, I love you, and I want you to understand. A lot of people say that they love you, and they throw that word around so loosely,
so easily.
but they don't really understand that when you truly love someone, you take everything that comes with that person. When your mama says, baby, I love you, there are no terms, there is no fine print, there is no doubt.
I just want to say, a lot of the times when I speak to, especially young women, that's just something that God has put in me, that I've always had a desire to kind of reach out to younger women. Um, when, as a mother, when you give birth to your child, you don't stop giving birth because it hurts.
Say that.
You know that it's necessary for you to endure whatever. If they got to put you under anesthesia, if they got to put you to sleep, if they got to cut you open, or if you get split from front to back, no matter what it takes for you to bring that child to life, you do it because even though you've never met this little person that's inside of you, you already love them. And if you have older children, grown children, then you understand that they will make decisions and they will do things and they will consist of things that you're not proud of, that you're not happy about, that you're not going to be okay with, or you would not have made that decision for yourself. But I will say this: you don't not love that child because they make a decision that you don't like.
There you go. Right.
So when you're truly talking about being with someone, you kind of have to look at it in that same fashion. No, you didn't give birth to this person. I get that. But the love that God has for you is the same way. He doesn't not wake you up today because you sinned yesterday. You get what I'm saying? So I know for myself that if I say that I love you, I love you. If I say that I care about you, I care about you. And I do that from a very, very pure place because I know what it's like to be loved by conditions. I know what it's like to be loved on terms. I know what it's like for somebody to say, yeah, I love you, but well, if it comes with a but, then you can keep it.
Right.
Because that but negates everything that you said beforehand. So one of the things that I committed myself to with my husband, and it has been a true uphill battle, but I love this man unconditionally. He could piss me off, and he'll tell you, he done piss me off. But I'll say, what am I going to do? Not love you? What am I going to do? Throw you away?
Right.
I love you. I'm here. Where am I gonna go? Like I've already committed my life to you. I stood and intentionally, though this is my second marriage, but I tried to make sure he understood before we got married that this was an intentional marriage. The first time I was young and I thought that's what I was supposed to do. But when I got married to him at 29 years old, I knew exactly what I was doing. I knew exactly what it was that I was setting myself up for. And I knew what it was gonna take. My husband was a little green on the marriage tip, and he had no idea what we were getting ready to face. But I knew what came with this. I knew what we were going to face. And I knew that I had chosen the right person to go through it with.
Well, she has groomed me. I've been with this woman since I was 24 years old, and I'll be 34 in December. The good Lord's will. So we've done and been through and seen so many hills and valleys. But the most important part of all of that, which Courtney said, and we even got a few other comments in regards to, is how did we make it to this point? And I will tell you now, because I have a greater understanding, we've weathered our Will and J moment.
We've gone through, and it has not been easy. It has required
prayer.
I like to use that term where it talks about the shaking, the beating, and the pressing. But if you think about it, if you understand the process of how diamonds are made,
come on,
right?
Say that.
It comes from nothing. Diamonds come from nothing. They come from literally
little lump of coal.
Literally, coal is nothing but dirt.
Pressed.
So let's talk about the beginning of this process. Let's talk about the particles. So if we talk about this relationship and where it started from, if you can look at our glow up, as they like to call it, and that's we're not done. You can look at where we began and see the particles of people that we were, the pieces of us that was there at the start of this relationship.
Two very different people from two different worlds, raised the black sheep. You understand? And why I think why I choose to love her and kind of like show off so much at times is because I know some people just have to feel like, how did I let that slip? I know how much of a beautiful person she can be, despite oftentimes what I get in action. And she's taught me that, because you talking about a SOB, boy. If you look it up, that was me. But she stuck it out. She groomed me. She's taught me so many different things. I won't necessarily say that she raised me up, but she uplifted me.
Definitely grown since we've been together, and so have I.
Yeah, most definitely, so without a doubt. So, and that's all the more reason why I be showing out, because man, it ain't that one. They wouldn't even know what to do with you now. And it's so funny because even in my own personal circumstances with my children's mothers, because I have two, 1.5, but that's another story. They don't know what to do with me.
No one did.
They don't know how to they don't know how to look at me and see the difference and see that I am a man. Not by gender.
Oh my gosh. This man came home one day in action. years and years ago, with glass in his ankles. That's a whole story by itself. I will not even tell it. This man came home to me with glass in his ankles. Oh, so you just let your mind wander on how that even happened. But he came home with glass in his ankles and scrapes all over his body because of a situation that had happened.
And I chose to react rather than respond. If you always do what you always did,
Mama D said, baby, you'll always get
what you've always gotten.
And one of the things that we've continuously done, sometimes together and even sometimes apart, is we've tried to change our ways. We've tried to ensure that we're not getting the same thing, that we're not doing the same thing, that we're not in this revolving door that is not going to be beneficial one to the other, that's not going to be beneficial to our family, our circumstance, and things of that nature. And it is a process. As people, you get comfortable, you get complacent. It's in your nature.
That's right.
And everything.
Go ahead.
Everything that's in this microwavable time, everything is at the push of a button. Yeah. It makes relationships even more complicated because nobody has the patience to endure what it takes to make these relationships work. You cannot bypass that stage. You have to go through it. When you run into a storm and you're on the highway, the most that you could do is pull over because you can't drive around it. You're gonna have to go through it at some point or another. So for me, it was kind of like, I'd rather grin and bear it and go through it at the beginning than be 10 years, 15 years, 20 years down the line and there is a Will and Jada moment.
Well, the Bible says that your latter shall be greater than your former.
Sure enough.
So I'm looking at all minds coming in tenfold. I kind of made it my business to not so negative things. I had to kind of like unlearn.
And he's still relearning because he still struggles with the filter that should be in the back of his mouth that stops the things that's in his head from slipping out and coming out of
things. But I'm not like now I'm more like a okay. And that's growth. And that is growth. You understand me? You understand me? Okay. So we together you have to make a decision when you meet someone of the potentials, because no one falls in love with the finished product. You fall in love with the potential.
And if you do fall in love with a finished product, I can almost most certainly assure you
It's not going to be the same way when you get down the road as it was when you started out.
if it is, I would be gravely afraid.
I've Yeah,
I would
because
be
there's a
afraid.
whole lot that you probably don't know and you probably don't want to.
Correct.
Real is real.
Mhm.
And my wife has given me the values of real family. We have a real family. We have a real marriage. Um,
And we go through real stuff,
we
y'all.
go through real stuff, and we have real supporters.
Yes.
Let me say that. Let me not skip out on that. We have real supporters. We have some naysayers. However, oftentimes they cheer for us as well. And as people change and evolve, I've watched people together grow apart. And we call it how we see it, so that we don't have to turn around and bear witness to us being together, growing apart. Instead, we've done everything that we can to make sure that we're fluid.
That we grow, but grow together as we grow.
Right.
One of the biggest things that I've noticed about couples that grow apart is that there's a missing link. That you choose to see that you are growing apart and continue on that path.
Right. We went through the kind of love hate thing, and the agree to disagree type of relationship for a very short period. But I said to her, I'm like, listen, man, happy is too up and down. You remember that? Happy is too up and down. I just want to be consistent. I just want to be progressive. And if you can find your happiness, your niche, your joy, if I can find my joy, my peace of mind, and focus on that and grind that out like a Pretty Ricky song, then we can come together and we can share that joy with one another. And that will keep us consistent. That will keep us on one accord. And we've been doing just fine ever since. Not trying to be happy, not focusing on happy, but focusing on being progressive and committed, consistent, understanding, and all of the things that consist of just trying to be a better individual. Just as a person, we then come back to the table and we distribute that with each other. And that has helped us to get to where we are in conversation. Even when we have our little oops and our little slip ups or our disagreements, we still are able to turn around and say, hold on, wait a minute. Before I allow you to go out there feeling like this, or before I, walk away with these feelings harbored the way that I've done that before.
Let me say this.
Let me just put this out there. And then we can go our way and we can truly avoid less of those circumstances that look like what we saw at that red table.
Well, I will say this, that I don't think that anyone makes plans to hurt someone that they care for. I think along the way, in your relationship, you find yourself focusing more on yourself than you do your partner. I just don't think that people say, I've been with this person and we live together and we love each other and we have kids together and we have this together and I just want to hurt them. I don't think that that's something that people truly do. And I think that's a common misconception that has been allowed to now be a part of a relationship stereotype. Your partner is not out to just hurt you. However, A lot of the times, the person that you are with is just as not ready as you are,
or just as afraid.
or just as afraid, or just as heavy, because we talked about unpacking your stuff,
Hmm.
unpacking your life stuff before walking into a relationship with someone expecting these great
And
things
to
to
start
happen.
anew, indeed.
um you have to understand, um and I will continue to say that I think it's extremely important to maintain the friendship in the relationship,
Keep it fresh.
because yes, but do you ever notice that friends don't get tired of each other? Do you ever notice that friends don't have to put in the extra effort to keep things fresh, because it just comes very natural?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the focuses that I tried to make for us is making sure that our friendship is on point, because if our friendship is on point, then the relationship just comes easily. Everything else just kind of comes quite naturally. And so when we were great friends, like at the very beginning, life was grand. I can't even tell you all of the foolish things that we did together. You know what I'm saying? But he was like, let's do this. And I'm like, yeah, let's do that.
I
Let's
get where
do
you're
it.
coming from, and I can definitely appreciate you going out on some of those limbs with me, because you are more of the homebody, and I'm just kind of like out there everywhere doing what it is
All
that
over the place.
um I, you know, let's uncover a rock. So she's definitely right when it comes down to certain circumstances. That illustration was really good. And just to kind of back you up, you never question your friend's motives. You never really look at your friend and say, I don't know. Your friend is your friend. When you know who your friends are, tried and true,
You don't question that.
you don't question that.
You don't think about it.
You don't even think about it, because it ain't like you. It ain't like, oh, you moving funny. I don't know if that's how I really feel, or what is that how you really feel about
Never
me?
that. You say to yourself or to anybody else that's questioning, like, man, please.
That's my.
Never.
It ain't gonna happen.
No,
So
not happening.
it takes a lot to get to that place in a relationship, especially after you've done something that can tarnish the trust.
Yeah.
It's trust is always something that you're gonna have to work at every single day. If ever you betray that trust, you know what I'm saying? A lot of people discard the entire relationship, and then you end up in a circumstance most times that is far worse than the one that you threw away, because you've come into now a new situation with old expectations. You now have an outlook on things, and you're saying, well, I know what this is going to be like, or I know how that feels. So that must be what this is, because this was done by this person, and I don't like how that feel. Yeah. So I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to put up with that. I ain't never doing that again. Yeah. And that has been me. That has been me. Because I am oftentimes not the most forgiving. You knew what you were doing when you decided to do it beforehand. Love and respect run hand in hand. You cannot love me if you do not respect me to the same degree. So if you do something that is disloyal, that is disrespectful, that does not coincide with you showing any love or compassion for me in that situation, and that lets me know how I need to deal with you, or how I need to adjust myself when dealing with you. So those uncomfortable conversations are definitely necessary. That red table talk that everyone is talking so much more about, I hope that they're really getting the right interpretation behind it. I hope that they are taking the right things of substance
away from
it,
that,
rather than the gossip or the drama,
or or the negativity behind it. As I
Right.
said to begin with, he and I have different opinions about it. But I do feel that it's necessary for people to see relationships in a fashion that's not just the smiles and giggles in the pictures. People in real relationships go through real things, and people who are not yet in those real relationships know that they can get in those situations, face those situations, and still be happy.
They
Still,
coming
yeah,
one way or another.
you can't bypass that unless you take a vow to just be by yourself. And I feel a lot of people have prematurely made that decision, and I hope that we give you the hope to kind of change your mind about it, because it is so great when it's great. If you have any kids, and I'm pretty sure you understand, because when you're raising your kids, it's great when it's great, and then when it's not, it's
It's
really
not.
not.
Yeah.
And so if you can raise a child and can be committed to that cause, then you have everything that it takes to be in a relationship and be committed to that cause. One of the things that has driven he and I is he is absolutely positively committed to our children, and I am absolutely positively committed to our children. So it forces us in a fashion to be just as committed one to the other.
Act right. Tighten up. Fly straight. And we are appreciative of you guys joining us on this wonderful Tuesday evening. We are going to conclude with the importance of those uncomfortable conversations. And even if you need to, or if you feel um, that it is necessary, maybe you should have your very own red table talk at home
With your spouse
with your spouse.
or significant other.
It is always room for improvement. So be accountable, love each other, love on each other, correct each other in private, and continue to grow. Thank you guys for tuning in.
Thanks again, y'all.
And we are going to see you guys next week, Tuesday. Before we go, like, share, and if you haven't already, subscribe. Until next time, guys. We out.
Mhm.